More and more sectors of the American economy recognize that their financial success is based on the success of the credit card industry.
This is Wilmington, Delaware. There's a bank on every corner. Behind me, the headquarters of MBNA. It's a state known for its favorable business climate, for its low taxes, and for its politicians who will do the bidding of the credit card companies. MBNA is now owned by the Bank of America. Fewer and fewer banks, some say 10 in all, dominate 92% of the industry, supplying, get this, 1.5 billion cards worldwide held by 158 million card holders. That averages to 10 cards per person. The banks persuaded Congress to deregulate, leading to consolidation and higher prices. Pro-business court decisions allowed them to base operations in low-tax states like South Dakota and Delaware, and end consumer protections against usury. You and I may not fully understand how the credit industry, the card companies, and big banks operate, but they understand us, their customers.
Everything here is very clearly thought out and premeditated, whether it's having conferences and think tank sessions about how to encourage people to accept more debt, to work with merchants, for example, to persuade merchants with empirical information that if your average customer pays in cash, that if they use a credit card, they'll buy 20–25% more.
3 big companies maintain vast databases on every American. They have more data than the CIA, says computer expert Daniel Gross.
The credit card system as a whole is a huge threat to our freedom. But the really great threat isn't so much these corporations as our nonchalance in the face of the power they have over us. It's our indifference, our negligence, our ignorance that gives them their power and that makes them dangerous to us.
Gross showed us how these companies present themselves.
This is the homepage of the Experian website. Notice how it has all the friendly colors and it's very inviting, happy mom, happy kid, very friendly, non-threatening, and that's the way they want you to feel about the multi-million-dollar business they have making money on your information.
We hear a lot about identity fraud and credit card scams against individuals, but not about fines and lawsuits against unethical practices by credit card companies, including deceptive advertising and improper fees. These credit bureau practices were riddled with abuses too. They've now simplified their products and the way they determine credit scores.
Credit score is a number that is calculated differently by each credit reporting agency using a proprietary formula.
Proprietary is another word for secret, which is how much of the industry operates. It decides on your credit worthiness and can often unilaterally change the agreement it has with you even after you've signed it.
I don't bother reading most of the things I sign when I get them from my credit card companies.
You're a lawyer.
Most people have difficulty understanding the amount of paper that your credit card company assaults you with. Multiple pages. The pages are at least 15 in number. The print is very small. And again, this is an example of drafting by a risk-minimizing lawyer.
What the big banks and credit card companies understand that most of us don't is that our society has changed fundamentally. Consumer credit drives our economy, but where is it driving us to? Everyone is scrambling to pay their bills. In many states, you can take out a loan using your car title as collateral. We followed these 2 guys into a title loan store in Delaware.
Well, we went in to get a title loan on Eric Penner's automobile here. The book value of this car is probably about $9,000. It charges a 25% interest for a 30-day loan. So our interest for 30 days came to $296.86, plus charges a $65 processing fee. And they already automatically assumed that we wouldn't be able to pay it back in 30 days, so that only leads you to believe that it's a regular occurring situation. After 60 days, We'll be charged an extra 25% on the loan, and then they charge you interest on the interest. $750 of interest. That's a ridiculous amount of money. You lose a car worth $9,000 for not paying back $1,850 in 60 days. That's the decision you have to make. And so many Americans find themselves in our current economy in a situation where they need to make these decisions and they need to borrow their money.
In 2005, the top 10 credit card companies spent over $2 billion on advertising and marketing. Who worked on advertising for Citibank's credit card division about the way the companies market credit cards.
American Express discovered that a major problem that they had was that their credit card customer was getting older and older. They were not attracting younger people. And so they decided to make a card that would appeal to younger people, the Blue Card. And in fact, it was successful. Look at the MasterCard ads.
Program in the first, $4.
You'll see a MasterCard ad that shows a family going to a baseball game and paying for the hot dogs and the tickets and you know, all this costs a certain amount of money and you can do it with MasterCard. But what is the real meaning of the evening? It's the family together, and it is priceless. Now, think about that advertisement. This is an advertisement urging spending. And the trick in the advertisement, which is oh so clever, is to say the point of this all is it's priceless. It's really not concerned about money. It's concerned about you as an intact, wonderful, caring family. You know, you as an intact, wonderful, caring family can go to some park and play softball with your kids too. You don't have to spend, you know, $180 to go to a ball game.
Bankruptcy lawyer Charles Juntica.
People act on those commercials. Those commercials have real influence. They are done scientifically to get into your unconscious mind.
The priceless campaign, which you see in many of the MasterCard ads, is brilliant because what they're saying is this credit card, this is not a way to get you in debt. This is not a way to cause you to overspend. This is a way to reinforce your values, your deepest beliefs.
Their identity is based on their credit cards. Even the color of the plastic that they use now identifies them within a rank order of the credit card nation. Gold, silver, platinum, titanium. Everybody's identity now is what their transaction, whether it goes through, whether it's been accepted, whether it's been rejected.
The card itself says something about who you are. So that if now you're a senior executive and you're taking out an American Express green card, there's a perceived disjunction between who you are and what that card is. And the credit card issuer says, wow, that's wonderful. I can issue a platinum card. Well, then the platinum card becomes too widespread. I can issue a black card.
The black card is the extraordinary, super elite card of American Express for people who charge approximately $300,000 a year.
After years of getting unwanted, unsolicited credit card solicitations in my mailbox at home, I come to the office and what happens? I'm being spammed to death with more solicitations in my inbox on email. Less than perfect credit will match you with the right lender, credit card. It just doesn't stop.
And where are the commercials that say, don't use credit cards? If you use a credit card, pay it off in 30 days, or else you'll pay outlandish interest. Where are those commercials? They don't exist.
Something like this? Making priceless commercials. Tens of millions. Making a film about credit card abuses. Tens of thousands. Getting hooked on credit cards. Overpriced. Creating awareness of the problem, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's 29% interest.
Today, there are more choices and more complexity about these loan products than ever before.
Doug Lebda founded LendingTree.com, a big internet-based lender.
Not only complexity in terms of the products, but also in terms of how to use them wisely. And all of this comes at a time when we as Americans are expected to take more financial and personal responsibility for our financial futures than did generations in the past.
Doug is right. Consumers are confused, but the companies thrive on that confusion too. The focus seems to be on individual responsibility. What is the responsibility of the industry here?
This is an incredibly complex world that we're living in with very, very complex products, and obviously the stakes are extremely high. I think it's important that consumers stay very informed in that process, and we as LendingTree, as well as the industry in general, I think can do a very good job in helping to educate and helping to inform and making sure that consumers get the right answers.
Bullshit. Did the banks say the same thing about mortgages? Did they say, we'll give anybody a mortgage? No, they have pretty strict restrictions and criteria by which they determine a mortgage.
But that's what they say.
Any institution that lends you money is obligated to define the conditions under which they're lending you money, which are commensurate with your ability to pay.
Isn't that their responsibility? Don't they have a responsibility?
Who's the they?
The banks.
Of course they do. Of course they do. We're doomed to shop till we drop. Two-thirds of our economy is based on consumption, which leads to a rather petrifying paradox. If we cut back on consumption, which obviously is good for the environment, it's good for a number of things, the U.S. economy collapses. In a sense, we've built an economy that needs rampant consumerism as a fuel to keep the engine going.
As of Christmas 2005, the national debt stood at $8,179,165,267,626.42. Break that down, and each American share comes to $27,439.48, and that's per person.
I'm going to be screwed. I don't like that at all.
This debt increases on average $2.83 billion per day.
The payments that we're making are the gift that keeps on taking and leaves us buried deeper every year.
As the national debt threatens to rise to $10 trillion, a new national debt clock is being built.
I know nothing about it.
I know absolutely nothing except for it's just making my family even more poor.
Debt is a symptom of much larger economic and structural issues facing households. One, we've seen a decline in incomes or a stagnation of incomes, particularly in the lower income household range and also for middle income households. At the same time, costs have really skyrocketed. Healthcare, housing costs, the cost of sending a kid to college. And finally, we've got to look at public policy and what has happened. And what we see is a real retrenchment in terms of providing a safety net for households.
Castles? That's a metaphor that goes back to the days of feudalism when the lords owned the land and the serfs did the work. And a historian of debt says that what went around then is coming back now.
The price of getting a home in America is to enter into a lifetime of debt servitude.
In a sense, have we become serfs?
In the 1920s, one of the things that brought about the Depression, among others, was this exuberance, this foolishness in the investment of speculative stocks. Listen, I think the next great economic crisis in this nation is going to be brought about by the debt load and the high rates of interest that are charged from it. It is shocking to me that intelligent people, educated people, have not taken time to think about this. We cannot sustain over an extended period of time these high levels of debt, particularly at high rates of interest. Because what will happen is that whenever it comes to an end, and there is an end to the amount of credit. In other words, when it gets so leveraged, it will create an economic crisis so deep that it'll threaten us as a nation.